Hi guys, welcome back to At Home with Holly. My name's Holly. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. So today we are going to be doing a little bit of an outside project. Going to be finishing off amending the beds and putting silage tarps over the ones that don't have garlic or things that are overwintering out there. So I'm super excited about this. This is the final step in putting the garden to bed in the places that we need to put it to bed and just giving it what it needs. So I've already taken the time to put compost. I topped all of our beds with compost. And I'm excited that that part is done. It's so necessary. You can either do that in the fall or the spring. I like to do it in the fall, amend it with the amendments, then put the silage tarp over it so that the worms are encouraged to go in there, the nutrients go through the soil is happy, the soil life is happy, and then in the spring, I'm able to just uncover the tarps, amend with some fertilizer, and then plant directly into them. So I choose to do it that way. You can do it whichever you want. This year I had to get compost delivered because I'm making compost, but not enough for all the beds that I had. So when I was getting it delivered and thinking about it, I've gotten it delivered in the spring. And when the truck comes to drop it off, it kind of makes some ruts in my yard and I didn't want to do that. So all in all, do it whenever works for you. There's no right or wrong answer to gardening. There's no one size fits all for me. I chose to have my compost delivered since I had to have it delivered in the fall, top off the beds, amend them with some humic acid and some azomite because that will help feed the life in the soil and also put some nutrients back in, all that kind of stuff. And then, which is nice organic fertilizers, and then top off with the compost as well. So we're gonna get that started. I'm so excited that you're here and let's get going. Okay, so I also just decided that today is a beautiful day in November and the leaves have all dropped off the fruit trees. So it's the perfect day to do the first of 3 dormant oil fruit tree spray regimen that we're gonna do. So I grabbed my spray bottle, my horticultural oil, and my liquid copper. So I'm gonna get this mixture set up too. We're gonna spray the fruit trees since all the leaves have dropped. You spray in November. You spray a warm day in January, and you spray before the bud break happens, end of February, early March for your 3 treatments when you're doing organic treatments for making sure all the funguses and overwintering bugs and that kind of stuff don't pop up, leaf curl, all the things. So we're gonna get this mixed up, get our trees sprayed, we're gonna get our amendments put on the beds, and the silage tarps put on as well. So lots of things happening outside today. Let's get going. So these products are for you, OMRI for use in organic gardening. And when you read the little packets, it'll tell you how much for each application. So we're gonna do 2.5 to 5 tablespoons per gallon of the horticultural oil. And then we're gonna do 4 tablespoons, sorry, my cats are playing, 4 tablespoons per gallon of the liquid cop. And I'm only doing a little over a half gallon of water because I don't have enough trees to justify. I did a full gallon last time and ended up throwing a lot of it away. So I'm doing just over a half gallon. So we're gonna get this mixed up. Okay, we're all set. Let's take this outside. So it is not sunny out, but I want to have sunglasses on to protect myself, and I've got our spray mixture. Whoop. So we're gonna go ahead and get this all applied. This sprayer has a leak, but that's okay. You guys fell. You can't fall. I wanna get these trees coated super well. You don't want any dry spots from the top all the way down to the bottom. And if you have a bigger orchard with more mature trees than I do, you're going to want to either use the nozzle end, the hose end sprayer, and not mix them together so that you can get the tree coated really well, or just maybe a higher pressure sprayer than the one that I've got, or it might just take you a little longer. Either way, you want to get this thing really, really well coated. So again, you need to spray when it's right for your area, and I would definitely read the back of the bottles to make sure you're getting the right concentration dose for the trees that you're wanting to spray, but that was the right dose for my area. So in my area, we're going to spray late November, which is right about now, and then we're also going to spray on a warm day in January, and then before the buds break at the end of February and early March. And so that looks a little different year to year. Some days, some years I'm sure that it's been colder than it was this year, but this year we had a really warm fall. So, and if you don't remember to do the November one, still do the January and still do the February, March one. And if you don't remember to do the November or the January, make sure you still do the one at the end of the year, because that's the most important one, but all of them together equal a pretty strong success rate. To every one of my raised beds, besides the 2 that I've already amended and then planted the garlic and shallots in, I'm going to be adding humic acids and azomite. So azomite is the white one that you can see, and my camera actually shut off so you don't get to see me doing the humic acids. But the azomite is actually ground rock dust, and that just provides extra trace minerals. Most of the time, I fill my beds completely with compost, maybe some leftover potting soil. And compost is wonderful and the best thing ever for your garden, but it's mostly carbon-based, which is great for fluffy, soft soil. But it doesn't always have all the extra trace minerals that you would get from the natural soil, like clay soil. My area is very clay soil, so we have a lot of those trace minerals, but that's 12 inches down at the bottom of my beds. So this is just a way of adding more to the top layer that works its way down and all the way through the soil. Not necessary, but I think it really helps boost the fertility. And then the humic acids, it doesn't add any acidity, so it's not going to change the rate of your soil, but it does help feed the beneficial bacteria that's already in our soil, and we're just trying to keep our soil alive and healthy. The camera totally didn't film, but I did the humic acid before I did the azomite. Like I was saying, we're just trying to, we grow all this food and it takes nutrients from the soil and puts it into our food, and we're so grateful for that because then we have healthier food. But we need to also be replenishing so that it has the nutrients to put back into our food again that we're going to be growing. So I'm just going, and I practice no dig unless I'm looking for potatoes. And so I'm just scratching it in the top inch or 2 of the soil, like the crust layer, just so that it doesn't form a solid crust on the top. It actually works its way in, and the worms and the bacteria and all the stuff is going to go in there and feed on it and move it around and do its thing. So I'm just going around with a rake and scratching it into the top inch or 2 before I lay it on the silage tarps. The silage tarps that I'm going to be covering has 2 sides. It has a black side and it has a white side. So for this application of trying to keep the beds warm and trying to encourage any weeds to actually sprout. So you want the white side towards the soil. The weeds are going to sprout and germinate, and then it's going to smother them down and tell them no, not today, and actually kill off a lot of the seeds that would have been in your bed for next year. So my weed seed bank is going to be lowered by doing this. It is kind of hard to find silage tarps that are the size of raised beds. I couldn't do it. So what I actually did was buy a very large roll of it and then cut them all into 8x4 equal pieces. And then I just keep them in my garage over the summer. And then every winter I pull them back out and use them to cover my beds. I live in a very, very windy area. So you do want to make sure if you have any kind of wind that you are weighing these down. I choose to use not just the bricks, but also some furring strips in between the bricks. And so the bricks will stay on top of the furring strips and kind of weight them down more evenly. So I love having these silage tarps. You can reuse them. I'm not a big fan of plastics, but you can reuse this plastic year after year after year. This is what a lot of farmers use because this is a really great way. You can either do a cover crop to make sure that your soil doesn't get depleted of the nutrients and we're actually feeding it and bugs don't overwinter and stuff, or you can cover it with a silage tarp or any other kind of tarp or mulch or anything. Somebody once said that Mother Nature is modest. If you don't cover her, she will. And that is exactly what happens. If you don't cover up your beds, the water is going to get in there and wash away all the nutrients, and it's going to leach nutrients. You're going to have weeds that are going to germinate. You're going to have maybe bunnies or critters that dig some holes and overwinter, or just things that you don't want. So this is a nice way of preserving the integrity of the life that you have going in the soil. So I do cover all of my beds. I don't cover the beds that have garlic or shallots in it because that would smother out and kill those. But I do choose to cover all of my raised beds that don't have perennials in them with this silage tarps. And then I have landscape fabric that is on the fruit side of the garden, and so those stay on all year long, just to kind of trying to smother out and suffocate the weed pressure on that side of my garden as well. But on this side of my garden where most of the vegetables are grown, I do choose to use the silage tarps. Now I do know that for the purpose that I'm using, we're putting the white side of the tarp down and the black side up. And that's going to keep it nice and warm because the black is going to attract the heat. So over the winter, it's going to keep our beds warmer. The white side's facing the soil, so it's going to simulate the sunlight, and it's going to tell those weeds and plants to grow underneath and then smother them out. You could also use this in the reverse way by putting the black side down and the white side up if you were trying to reflect some of the heat. I haven't tried that, but I've seen other people on YouTube and online that have done that, but I don't live in an area where I need to do that, so that's not something that I've used them for. I've just used them white side down, black side up, just to smother out the weeds and to cover my beds and to keep everything covered and intact. So I'm sure there are other people that have done it the other way, but this is the way that I'm choosing to do it this year and in the years past. And so far, so good at definitely smothering out a lot of the weeds that we have growing. All right, so this is our last bed that we're going to use a silage tarp on. We're going to work this azomite and humic acid in and go ahead and cover her up. Call it good. So all of my original raised beds, most of my raised beds are 8x4, but a few of them, this one and the beds that the berries are in are actually 3x6. And then the one that my in-ground worm composting bin is in is actually 3x8. So on those beds, I do have to fold in the silage tarp a little bit, but it's just a lot easier for me to keep track of them if I keep them all 8x4 and then fold them when I need to and don't fold them when I don't need to, rather than having specific ones that are different sizes. This just works better in my brain and for storage. Okay, we got them all fertilized and tarped with silage tarps, and got all amendments worked in, got them all tarped, got the tarps weighed down. I'm going to pick up a couple more just regular bricks to make sure that I have all the flappable edges weighed down so that they don't blow away in the wind. And other than that, we are good to go. We sprayed all our trees. We have everything set to go for the bad weather that's coming our way. So I want to thank you guys so much for all the likes and the comments and the shares. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. We have a whole lot more growing and chicken stuff, chicken tending, and preparing food and harvesting and all the things. So I can't wait to see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye, my friend.